with a detailed collection of terrain, scatter and minis. The temple comes with a modular selection of columns, walls, arches, porticos and toppers. You can choose whether you put them on the columns or whether you put them on the tabletop. The temple uses open lock clips in 2 sizes to allow you complete flexibility. Almost every item comes in 2 sizes. Large for an impressive, overwhelming temple that will really give height to your tabletop, or a much more manageable, smaller one. If you want to stack your columns and have multiple high ones, then the smaller options take up less space. Or just mix and match and print both like we have. For those of you who like to add flooring, we have a set of modular tiles on the theme of dark and light. There's even sand heaps sweeping across them. Detail your temple further with statues, broken, fallen over, or standing upright. They come in 2 varieties, light and dark. In fact, there's a whole theme of light and dark. If you want, you can print everything in black for a dark temple. On funding, we'll also be releasing the planar meshes. These are the ones before the desert texture. So if you want a smooth obsidian style temple, you'll be able to do that too. To round it out, we have a number of key game elements. There are line of sight blocking walls. There are difficult terrain sand dunes. Plus, there's a few pieces of scatter just to add flavour, and a round building, just because. All the terrain is designed for easy, support-free FDM printing. But if miniatures are more your thing, we have a range of miniatures too, and you can choose between the terrain set, the miniature set, or all in combined. There are 12 different minis with a whopping 24 poses, so there should be something to go with your temple. To start, there are 2 heroes, a dark hero and a light hero. There's a temple guard and a temple guard captain, again coming in dark and light and multiple poses. And to round it out, there's a selection of 6 weird and wacky looking pilgrims. Let's just say they take cloaking to a whole new level. All the minis are available, professionally supported for resin printing. So which side will you pick? Will you go for the dark hero? He's a bit of a poser, and why stand up straight when you can do a lunge? Or would you prefer the slightly scruffier looking but light hero? But if you want to try out Kadau the Temple Moon before you pledge, then we have a free gift for you. All you need to do is sign up to the email newsletter and you'll receive a set of obelisks plus a supported resin mini. And the minis also come unsupported if you prefer to support yourself. So back now to bring Kadau the Desert Temple to your tabletop. Remember, you can choose terrain or minis, or you can buy the whole lot all together at a discount price. The more people that back, the more stretch goals we can unlock, and we've got some great ones planned, whether it's light up columns and minis, more poses, libraries, and even corners and T-junctions so you can make the walls into complete ruin sets, plus the obsidian temple and square columns and more patterns for the columns. So back now to support Kadau the Temple Moon and get your hands on some great models. Hello and welcome everybody. I hope you're all having a great weekend. For people abroad, it's probably got a bit more to go than most of us in the UK for whom it's ending. But wow, it was sunny today. I actually walked in the sunshine, which was beautiful, if a little cold. So it's been a great week. My Kickstarter's out and I'll talk more about that in a second. There's some great people in chat already. Say hello if you haven't, and welcome to everybody who's here. I've seen John's just arrived. I missed you at lunchtime, but we were quite late. I often meet John and Bracken, the dog, in the park at lunchtime, and I didn't see Jill either. Every day she says to me, hello, have you seen John? There we go. Hi, Tamsin, who must have snuck in when I was... Oh, there we are. I'm sorry I missed you. And hello to Scalecrafts and Jaw21, who've also come in since I said hello to everyone on chat. Ah, you the GWR today. Cool. So, it's been an exciting few weeks. I've got a lot going on, and not all of it's going well, if I'm honest. I try and be really upbeat about my Kickstarter, but it's basically stalled. So I did something that isn't purely sci-fi. You could use it in fantasy, but it is based on a lot of Jedi and Sith temple motifs and styles, although I also brought in quite a lot of Egyptian influence, and I looked at concept art for things like Jedi Survivor, Rogue One, especially one of the minis, that a lot of them are very much Rogue One, a bit of Revan coming in there, so there's a lot of real big Star Wars influence on it. But somehow it's absolutely the worst thing I've ever done on Kickstarter. So my worst one to date has been about £5,000. This one is on £2,000 and it is not going up. What you find on Kickstarter is you sell in the first 48 hours, and then it really does nothing, and then it does maybe a third at the end, a third as much as you did at the beginning. So if I did £3,000 at the beginning, it might by the end have got to £4,000. But I'm only on £2,000, so at this rate, I'm probably going to struggle to even get to 3. And I really need it to get to 5, which is what my lowest other ones have done, just so that I can actually make a profit on it. I'm not even putting my time in there. So it's been a bit of a weird week. It went out on Wednesday and just, it stalled. So this is me begging practically, if you want to buy a desert temple, and there's some really cool statues, desert terrain, walls, loads of broken columns, fallen statues, but there's also just basic statues and columns, a lot of columns like this. Yeah, I know this one's blue, I'm talking about it later. Most of them are more that colour. You know, it's all there and it's really cheap, which may be one of the problems, because it's so cheap that actually it needs more people to buy it for it to do well. But actually I've had fewer people buying it than normal, so it's cheaper and it's not got as many people. So if you could remotely go and buy my Kickstarter, if it remotely interests you, or even if you just want to go and buy something from me, please, 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 I put the link at the top and it's pinned, and I will love you forever. Even if you never print it, I'll still love you. But anyway, thank you. So that's my kind of like plea over, begging done. So let's see who else has come in. Chubroskis Igor, love my work. Thanks from the USA. Thank you very much. And then it's weird. It keeps putting in messages after I've read the messages. Is this top chat? Oh, I'm in top chat. Oh, I need to be in live chat. Never make that mistake. Because it doesn't always put everything in. So if I missed anything, sorry folks, it just puts things in a weird order. For all those people who don't know, Royal Forth Llyn Tegid, which is the Bala Lake Railway, pronounced somewhat differently if you're Welsh, I suspect. I'm only half Welsh and my accent's English, is actually Tim. Just so you want to know. He said it in chat, and it was apparently raining and blow drying his shoes. And Tim has already supported the Kickstarter. He has a railway related plan for its use. So that's cool. Thanks. It's actually got minis as well. And they've been really fun to do. If you just saw the trailer, I might play it again at the end. If you've just seen the trailer, you'll see there's some really fun stuff in there. And there's a couple of things I want to talk about, apart from begging for it to get supported, and that was I'm actually going to be doing some work on my YouTube channel over the next couple of months. And the first thing is a diorama coming out of basically out of Kadau, the temple moon, which is the Kickstarter. Oh, hi Tom, who's just snuck in as well. So this is an LED column. My columns are normally solid. This one is printed in translucent blue, and it has, oops, I can never get this to come off on this, this filament's very different to normal filament because it's translucent. And I redid one afterwards, but this is the colour I have it in, and there we go. So that has got a hole in the bottom. Now you can just put a tea light in, turn on your tea light, put it inside the column, and you have a vaguely lit column. It probably could do with a couple of tea lights in there, if I'm honest. And the problem that I have with that is you can buy white light tea lights, so they don't have to look orange inside like this one does. But the problem I have with this is it doesn't go all the way up, which is why I then put the hole in so that I can put an LED strip in there for my diorama, and it'll be fine. So this is, I'm going to have, it's printing the back of it, which is all just stonework. This is going to have 4 of them I've got printed, and an LED lit mini. Now, I've never done LED miniatures before, and Dartfire Designs do them quite a bit. And they basically chop an arm off so you can get the wiring through. You put an LED where the lightsaber or staffs or whatever it is that you've got are, or even just the little holograms that come on the wrists. And then it runs through the body, out through a foot and into that hole. And this isn't a Dartfire one, this is one I've tried. I'm not sure this will work. My intention is that you can put these really small batteries I found in here and use magnets to trap the wires, glue it all so you don't actually need to kind of solder anything. We'll see. That's what this week is going to be all about. Can I do solderless mini bases? And I did these in Blender. I'm not sure the contacts will be enough, but if it doesn't work, then I'll just end up putting copper tape on, and that will work just as well. I spent ages, because most batteries you find are this size, and they're actually really deep. This is a standard Legion size base. It's really hard. But I've got these ones, which are CR927, and these are 3 volt. And I found they do LR927, which are 1.5 volt. So depending whether I've got 3 volt LEDs or 1.5 volt LEDs or 1.8 volt LEDs, I'll be able to swap them around. So that is a diorama I'm going to be doing this week. I thought, I've got a brand new bamboo, and I love my bamboo. It's just beautiful. Let me just show you this. So the blue was printed, can I get that to focus, on my presser at 0.1 I think, so it's not bad. But this is at 0.08 on my bamboo in matte filament. I mean, it's as good as resin. You can't see the layer lines. It's just blown my mind. And part of it is because I'm doing it at 0.08, but the bamboo's really fast, so you can print at 0.08. Though my diorama is split in 2, it's really big, it just fills the bamboo. And it's 1 day 15 hours for each half of it. So it's going to be nearly over 3 days worth of printing to get the base done. And then I can just put a USB LED strip in there, you know, and just fold it up and round like this, you know, through there. That's what I'm going to be doing. So that was me about my diorama I'm excited to do. Why am I excited to do it? Because it's actual modelling. I'm not just going to be sitting there on my computer. I'm actually going to be physically modelling, because I've got all my stretch goals done to £4,000 now, apart from one snagging I remembered. I've got all my stretch goals done to £4,000, and I'm only on £2,000 on the Kickstarter. So I don't think I'm going to reach the £4,000, so I don't need to do any more, which is what I'd normally be doing. And the only thing I have glued in the last like 5 months, apart from some minis onto bases, is the splint on my finger because I shattered my nail on a drawer, and I've glued it back together with a bit of styrene over the top because, hey, I'm a modeller and that's what modelers do. So I'm really excited to get glue out and paint stuff. And anyway, I'm going to read chat for a bit so I'm not just blur. What have we got today? So Tim, your pronunciation was about right. Thank you, Tim. Oh, that's pretty good. Actually, my mum says clean or chlin. There's differences between the way you say some words in the north and you say them in the south. My mum's from South Wales. So Norm says, a diorama based off the latest Kickstarter, a very good idea. I think so, Norm. I'm hoping to get just a little bit more out there. I'm actually doing Facebook ads as well for the second time. I don't think they did much the first time. I don't think they've done much on this time, but they haven't done much yet. So, yeah, we'll just have to hope everything... Why did it freeze just on that face? Oh, that was an awful face for it to freeze on. Sorry if you missed that face, but that was like the worst face ever for it to freeze on. Anyway, yeah, I think a diorama will be excellent. So Stating says you can get CR 2016, which are 1.6mm thick. yeah, those are the ones that Darkfire uses in it. But the problem is actually you then have to put copper tape around the outside, which needs something soldering. And I'm trying to see if I can do it with magnets on a smaller one. And I don't think people really put them on for long with the lights on. I think they mostly do them for photos, because I've only ever seen 2 or 3 ever done. And they've always just been in photos. So we'll see. But yeah, I hadn't realised that 2032 meant it was 3.2 millimetres thick and 2016 meant it was 1.6 millimetres thick. So I've learned a lot about batteries this week. New Model Railway says, I saw that face. And Norm says, true Halloween face. That was just awful. Anyway, so apart from being excited about actually doing some modelling, I want to talk about my next big set of projects, which are actually reusing a lot of old projects. And I'm just going to play the movie for it at this point. Here we go. So this is what my junk room looks like, and I call it the junk room. And it is a mess. All these boxes are things that are left over from my big sort out upstairs and just have no home. It's just scary. So I don't want to really have this as my main display room without it looking a bit tidier. So you can see I've got a shelf of Star Wars books. I've got a Jar Jar Binks homage shelf. Bit of a Master Chief bit going on, some Star Wars books I couldn't get in electronic, other stuff that's going to become a Darth Maul appreciation shelf, I think, and just junk sort of thrown in there. The suitcases need to go outside, but the place they live in is a right tip after the builders are in, and I haven't tidied that yet. It was my foam store, if you remember my infamous foam. And yeah, so those 2 bookcases there, I think are going to go upstairs into my workroom. I don't really want them in there. I think it will make it feel cluttered, but it's a workroom, not a studio show-off. So for now, I think they're going to have to go in there. And this is my main display at the moment for the dioramas, most of which are broken. That's the door that I need to keep open so I can get out into my foam and suitcase and Christmas void. You know, that, yeah, a lot of these are broken or need fixing, or, yeah, I mean, look at the tangle of wires. One of them, I mean, that one there is just a bit of a modular landing pad. It doesn't even go there. So I need to move everything around and do a bit of work on sorting out where all of this display shelf looks. And I'm going to go to Photo Slideshow and just pause this. I pause it, does it stay? Pause. Right. And what you can see is we're now standing in that display shelf. Oh, my iOS camera keeps freezing, but apparently I've discovered I can just hit reconnect to device and it will start again. I don't know what it is, but it's giving me weird Halloween faces, so it's not good. And everything else is excellent. So it's not the connection, it's the actual phone bit coming in. So, yay, a movie, says Norm, but Stating says 18 rated, it's a horror show. It is. I think in life there are 2 types of people. There are filers and there are pilers. People who file away neatly, they love tidying stuff, they put everything away. I'm not a filer. I am a piler. I pile stuff. I pile it high and I just pile it and I know where it all is. And I'm trying my best to put stuff away in my workroom. It's creeping already. But I do need to go and sort a lot of my projects out. So I made the decision before this Kickstarter did so badly, and I kind of wish I was earning more money now. But I made the decision I was going to have November, December off to do some of the projects. So this will happen while the Kickstarter's live. You know, it's fine. I know I need to do that. once the Kickstarter's done, or actually once this diorama's done, I'll start doing other things to do with this project and some of the other projects I've got. And for those of you who've been around a long time, you'll remember there's a Titanfall helmet. There's a B1 battle droid on my spare bed that is still in pieces on my spare bed. It needs sanding, it needs filling, it needs sanding again, and then it needs spraying and painting, and somewhere in that I have to assemble it as well because some of it's in pieces. So there's a lot of work to do on the B1 battle droid and the 2 pit droids that are on that bed. So they're going to be there, they're going to be a video, the Titanfall helmet's a video. So there's loads and loads of, I've just been working on them for too long. There's a cosplay or 2 sat around in pieces, and I'm putting it off because I don't really want to sew. Yeah, but there's loads I can do on it without sewing so far. But the biggest problem I have is my ever increasing number of models. I easily fill the whole of my sort of shelf behind, it's a kitchen worktop, behind my worktop where I sit and work and where you see me being videoed. There's a bit behind there, and it's, I don't know, it must be 12 foot long, probably. And I easily fill it full of models every single Kickstarter. Then they go in boxes. Occasionally I take them out to the local shops tournaments, so I get them out from under the bed. So if we look at this movie again, because that is my, yeah, I mean, just the amount of fluff you get under beds. I lifted this up and I was really embarrassed. But yeah, this is my lava. It lives under a bed with plastic over it. Now this is, oh look, it's lost me again. It does it every time, doesn't it? Right, okay. Basically that lives under the bed now. It's 3 foot by 3 foot lava terrain, and it's 3 foot by 3 foot lava factory, which you might remember, it was about this time last year I did it. And then in this corner, you'll see here, there's actually 3 1 foot square dioramas, sort of end boards that go with it, and they're lit up like it. So you can see here, these are lit up. I need somewhere to put those. They just live on the floor, but this one is 3 foot tall. You know, having, I don't know if you can actually see what I'm waving with the mouse, but it's a 3 foot tall dark keep in the middle with lava coming out the front. It's horrendously big. So the idea is that I will be able to convert this, let me go back to here, convert this into this. That's the idea. And look, it's lost me again. Oh, reconnect. At least I know how to do it. Last time I was unplugging it and plugging it. I've learned a bit since then. So I'm going to move me over here so I'm out of the way a bit. Whoops. So you can see, there we go behind it. There is that, 3 foot high. These are from renders and stuff, so they're not, the sides missing, sorry. And those are the sort of 3 waterfalls, sort of, and 3 1 foot end boards. That's 3 foot by 3 foot, and this is 3 foot square as well. So this is very deep. And the idea is this is going to be a display piece for all of my modelling. Not just my Kickstarters, though a lot of Kickstarters. So in that space, I have to have a vision of how I make it cohesive and which dioramas are going to go in there. And it's important that it looks good. I want this to be a display piece that I can put on social media that people will engage with, because I'm trying to engage back with social media myself because I'm not a fan of it. And I don't really look at it that much, but I go onto Instagram and just look at photos of friends who do creative work like me, rather than like friends who eat chocolate and put photos of it up, or coffee. I don't follow anybody who puts photos of food up. I'm like, nope, I'm not interested in what you eat. I just want to see your modelling. So that's who I follow. Railways, sci-fi, diorama, terrain, that sort of thing. So this is a render. Now you can see straight away, it's a bit of a pain because the left-hand side, the roof comes in. It's not, it's actually the outside roof there. So the corners of it. It's about 1.6 metres high, and you saw the bookcases fitted there. So I've got to have some things that are quite big and also self-supporting. So it's difficult. So I created this, and I was going to talk to you guys and get ideas from you guys about how I go about creating it in the best way. So I wanted almost like a Meccano set, so that as I create more Kickstarters, I can add them in. I mean, at the moment I've got 2 ring landing pads, I've got loads of desert terrain, and I was thinking that this is like Coruscant. So for those of you who aren't complete Star Wars geeks like me, let me just explain what that means. Coruscant is a city planet. At the bottom, depending whether you're in Legends or Canon, there's not a lot in Canon, but if you were back in the wider world of Star Wars before Disney took over, there was basically layers and layers, and at the bottom you had almost like the original ground of the planet with lakes underground, which are more like sewage dumps now, and then above it you had layer after layer after layer that had been built upon it, and they built the foundations of the buildings on previous buildings, and they just went up and up and up and up. So the lower levels, I think there's something like nearly 2,000 levels. They don't define what a level is, but there's 2,000 levels, and obviously the upper levels are where the Jedi Temple and the Senate and the rich people live, like Senator Palpatine and Senator Amidala and Senator Organa and all these other people you'll have heard of, Mon Mothma. They all live up on the upper levels. Then you've got the mid levels, which is where the average person like you or me would live, and then beneath that you have the lower levels, which are basically scummy, gang and poor and destitute and full of rubbish and run down. And if you play Jedi Survivor, the second one of the two, they actually go to the Coruscant lower levels. They also feature it a little bit in some Star Wars shows, and there was a big piece about they were going to do a game called 1313, and I think Survivor went to 1414, so you can see these are quite low levels. But when you see Ahsoka in the last season of the Clone Wars, they have these big columns. This will make sense to what I need to tell you all this. Big shafts going down with spaceships going down in them to get to these lower levels so they can deliver cargo and goods. So you obviously have spaceports on the upper levels and industrial areas so you can crash ships into them without blowing up people. But you have sort of industrial levels and hidden defunct factories. For an area that's created so much, a lot of it is still derelict. So this gives you, or gives me, an idea, and I was going to do a lower levels Kickstarter at some point, and I still will. But it gives me the idea of stacking different levels. And then I came across this beautiful word, diaspora. I love it. What it basically means is people leave their home, country, world, whatever, and they spread out there, and you get little enclaves and communities in other countries. So imagine there's a well-known Legends thing, Little Keldarby, which is basically Little Mandalorian area in Coruscant, and that's where all the Mandalorians go. So when you go in there, everyone's wearing armour, the food is spicy because it's Mandalorian, you know, the cantinas are called whatever they're called in Mandalorian, you know, and everybody goes around speaking Mandalorian, and they're cool because it's Little Mandalore. Keldarby used to be the old capital of Mandalore, so Little Keldarby. So you can have sections in here that are like mini Tatooines, or I really like the idea of a mini water one for those aquatic, of which we see quite a few, Nautilans and Quarren, not to be confused with Corran, which is what Mace Windu is, but Quarren, who come from Glianselm, is it? Anyway, and the Mon Calamari, famous, it's a trap, Admiral Akbar. So you can see there's loads of ways you can put in like an area that's been made to look like someone's home area, in the styling and in maybe a little bit of landscaping, maybe in some plants because they have lights hanging so they can grow stuff. And then you can have derelict levels. And the idea is that the further up you go, the posher it gets. But you've got these huge channels, which you can see going up and down. In fact, if I point it, up and down, you can see there's a hole in it. It probably won't go all the way through. I just did an array on this and put the hole through everything. And at the bottom of it, there'll be a ring landing pad, and there'll be landing pads jutting out across it through some of the other levels. And that is effectively, it's going to be a city planet. It's going to be called Saverna because that's what all mine are called. It's the overarching Saverna star system that they're all set in. And it's going to have places for each of my Kickstarters. And at the moment, I've got a lot of duplicates. But as I produce more Kickstarters, my next one might be a market district because there's a lot of markets in Outlaws and I'm really excited by that. If I was to do a market district next, then, you know, it might be that I can create a little retail area. If I was to, I've got a lot of landing pads already. I've got desert. I'm going to have some weird temples. So every now and then you're going to find a temple down there, which was from one of the original places. So you can see here, effectively what I'm trying to do. I've got the lava at the bottom, but I mean, it doesn't have, the lava factory could actually go above the lava in some way. I still could think about that. But the idea is it's 3 foot deep. I think it's about 8 foot long, but that end bit is tapered so I can get into the bookshelf. And that is the idea, and it's going to be up to the ceiling. So back to chat and my tea. Norm, I yearn to be a filer, but sadly I'm a piler, and to be honest, more like a boxer, lol. Maybe a piler of boxes. Oh, you saw my piles of boxes, still. So Stating says he's transitioning from a stasher to a boxer via Ziploc baggies. Interesting. Norm says nice. Lee says ecumenopolis. That is a good word with a lot of syllables, and I will have to use it. In fact, I could call the whole thing, I'm calling it Junk Room City, to be honest, for now, because it sounds cool. Tim, who's masquerading as Barla Lake Railway, sounds a bit like Fritz Lang's Metropolis. I think they all draw off the same basic one. I mean, I'm not sure when Fritz Lang's Metropolis was. I'm sure it was way last century. And nothing wrong with being last century. My kettle's from last century and it's still going strong. But I think Coruscant will be turn of the century, this century. Stating says landing pads halfway up need to be retractable or swing out. Actually, I think what will happen is that they don't obstruct the main, they jut into it just a little bit. But actually, if you're coming out in Survivor, I think you do actually have to go round a few pieces that stick out. So yeah, it does jut out. Yeah, Tim says it was 1927. So yes, I thought it was a while ago. I didn't realise it was silent. I thought it was black and white, but I didn't realise it was silent. Gosh. And Tamsin got in there too. Brilliant, thanks Tamsin. I don't understand what is happening with my stream tonight because I've turned off all my stuff that uses bandwidth. So Norm says, how high are my ceilings? I did all the measurements and I have a funny feeling they're just over a couple of, they're probably 8 foot. That's a standard height for a ceiling in the UK, maybe 7 foot. I think it was about 2.5 metres or 2.3 metres or something. It wasn't massively high. So I went to my local Solihull Scale Model Club meet, which are great guys. And now I used to miss it because it was always the last Tuesday of the month and the last something always catches me out. So they now, at least 2 of them text me every time to tell me to go. And it's in one of the local pubs. It's great. We just chat about modelling and there's some guys there who are really into it, but we often end up chatting. They talk about cars. I don't. We talk about Star Wars a lot. Maybe I'm obsessed. And one of the guys there cosplays as Darth Maul. So is so excited. Yeah, very excited by that. And basically they trashed my idea in a nice, positive way. They love the concept. Don't get me wrong, they're not rivet counters. They did not trash the concept. What they trashed was my Meccano set idea. So I was thinking of doing the corners in angle iron with holes in. You can get slotted holed angle iron, like Meccano. I was channeling my inner Meccano person, which I don't know if they even have Meccano nowadays. I'm not quite sure what the young hip kids equivalent is, but it was, the idea was I would put Meccano sides and then I could bolt on for the shelves whenever I wanted them, which is why you can see here there's two separate sets of shelves. And I want to use up a lot of the junk that I've got. So I've got fans that I bought for a project I never used. I want to have, like, you know, I imagine deep cities need ventilation, they need fans, they need oxygen generators. So I wanted a sort of central column which had some of that lifts, elevators for those who are not British, lifts for those who are, going up and down. So that's why there's a gap between these two bookcases. And they trashed it. And in fact, it was James who mostly did it because he's an engineer and he said it's going to twist. It won't work like you think it does. It needs to be squarer. It just won't work because it will twist. And, you know, I spent probably most of the 2 or 3 hours going, but why? Because I'm not an engineer. I'm an accountant come creator now. You know, I'm not an engineer. So apparently if I did this in angle iron, it wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work for varying different reasons. But because I want to be able to take shelves in and out as I perhaps create things that need different heights, at the moment it all looks very uniform on here, and it won't be. It certainly won't be. The plan isn't there will be this many shelves. Some of them will be double height so I can get my bigger buildings in. Some of the shelves might be narrower to get more like a sort of a sub-level in or something. So it's definitely going to have a lot of up and down shelving, but not as even as this. I want it to look more asymmetric and more unplanned, like the city just built up. So there must be some engineers out there in chat. Apparently, apparently angle iron isn't the way to go. And the trouble is finding something that's cheap, because I don't want to spend a fortune on this. I literally don't have the money to spend a fortune on this. But I do need to have something that's got space for expansion in the future. I have a lot of spaceships, so some of them need painting up, some of them need some of them are like toys that can just plonk on for now. But there's a lot of spaceships to fit in that I might put going up or down. I've got 2 old printers that I mentioned last week. Did anybody want my old Neptune 3 Pros? And nobody did. So now I'm looking at them thinking, I wonder if I could repurpose them, because I have in the past repurposed 3D printers. My old Anycubic Mega went into my last Saverna. And it's interesting, the idea whether I could use them to make like containers that pick up and go down. I've got one over here, actually just down here, that was my old Saverna, and it hit a number of floors. So I wondered about keeping them on their original sort of, you know, up and downs, and just having it moving on those as a, you know, the 3D printer base. You have to redo the motherboard. I couldn't get the programming to work last time, but you have to buy certain things. But I've actually got one down here that I could either take apart or put in. I wasn't very happy with this one, so this one will probably be taken apart eventually. So Norm says, have you thought about slot wall? Basically 4x8 panels with metal slots running horizontally, space maybe 4 inches apart, so you can slot in shelves where you want. I'm not quite sure what slot wall is, but this has to be freestanding because half of it is in front of the window. So let's just go play the movie and point out the problems that I have. So apart from having hundreds of boxes I've run out of space for already, let's fast forward. Okay, so let's start here. Actually, at the end there's the better movie, isn't there? The right way round movie. And I've frozen again. Right, let's just look at the movie. So the problem I have is this corner, you can see, is quite low and not particularly straight. But the curtain comes across quite a long way, and that's all window, and there's a radiator, as you can see, being a good British house, radiator under the window. So it's not really easy to kind of put anything against the wall. So it needs to be freestanding. It can't be anything that goes into a wall. Right, back to the photo slideshow. And I'm still frozen. Right, settings, reconnected device. Okay, there we go, unfrozen. Hi, Lindsay's Builds, nice to have you. They could be boxed in on the ends to make them freestanding. A good carpenter could accomplish that. It's an interesting one, isn't it? I'm going to tell you what they suggested in a second. I was just seeing if, because I don't want to just talk at you for the next hour about it. So I did kind of hope that people would jump in with some ideas, having had 2 hours of it before, with them trying all sorts of ideas. It was fascinating to see people's thought process. And it's a bit of a journey on, this is the concept, how do I make this work for the least amount of money with, and I don't think we've quite nailed it on what was going to happen. And one of the problems very much is twisting and torsion. Excellent. Oh, so the 45th Clown says, good luck with the Kickstarter, just pledge, question later. Excellent, thank you very much. And the link is at the top in the pinned chat if you want to support me, or actually it's in the comments, in the description if this is later as well. Thank you very much, I do appreciate it, I really do. I'll be able to afford to buy shelves. So let me explain just a little bit more about how I envisage each section being. Underneath each section of city, I want there to be some pipes, some ducting, not necessarily crawl space size, so I could perhaps make some crawling minis. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see whether crawling minis are a thing, or just do small aliens or creatures like rats, alien rats, obviously they're big, running through it. And yeah, and I want them to be, you know, some noxious leaking fluids and all that sort of stuff. Not on most of the levels, definitely. And, you know, just have some things. The shelves need to be quite thin so I can put that underneath without it taking up too much space, which is why it might not be on every one. Tim just popped up. He's going to have to sign off now. He might catch up with the rest next week. He's 3 hours ahead of Kathy. Oh, you're on holiday. Enjoy it. Have a great time. And yeah, thank you for calling in. So yeah, excellent. So I've got 3 main things I need to work out at the moment. 1, how am I going to do the uprights? 2, how am I going to do the shelves? And 3, how am I going to make it so that whatever I want to slot in and out is either removable or easily removable, so I can change the height of things. So it would be easy to build something using a slot system. But one of the things that James spent a lot of time telling me was that just angle iron will twist. And no matter what you do, you need to have squares. So the thing that he suggested I use for the ends, let's just go to here, is this. So I don't know whether we'll actually do this. If I hadn't been doing the Kickstarter, I'd have popped around to see him already about this. This is an Ivar side unit. It's not quite Ivar the engine. I'm sorry if you're American or overseas or German or whatever, because that won't make any sense. But Ivar the engine was one of the children's poems I watched as a kid. He's a little Welsh steam train and a dragon in his tank. So, or firebox most likely. So this is basically wood. And I've had this in my garage. It's IKEA. You probably can get it in your country too. If I move myself back, oh no, not that. Oops. I move myself back over here, then you should be able to see. It comes in a variety of sizes. This is just a photo. So you can see this one's 30 by 226. So there's, you can't see when I wave my mouse around. So I'm sorry, I'm waving my mouse around. And it's £17. So it's quite reasonable. And I would probably only need 3 of them, probably. I'm not quite sure how it would do the end yet, but yeah, it wouldn't be unreasonable. But it's only 30 wide. And this is the problem with most racking that you get. It's made for books or display. It's not made for a 3 foot deep lava board to go underneath it. And I want that feeling of depth. I want it to be dark towards the back so I can get some lighting effects with LEDs coming down. I've got a lot of buildings. I want to layer them up with sort of staggered back buildings, maybe even stack some of them. You know, there's a load of stuff I have that I want to do with this, using up things that I already have. I don't want to buy new stuff. I already have a lot of LEDs. I already have, and the only thing I'll buy new probably is 3D print filament if I want to print elements, or maybe resin even. So if this isn't wide enough at 30 centimetres, James did offer to do it for me, because I haven't got any space to do woodworking, to just use those end pieces, knock them out and replace the bars with 3 foot long pieces. So I'd effectively end up with a piece like this that is 3 foot deep, slightly wider than 3 foot, so that the lava probably sits inside that. And what this then has is loads and loads of holes that you can just put your things in for your shelves. So this would be one way of dealing with the there we go, with the sort of side pieces here. I don't know what everyone else's thoughts is. I'd love chat to say something. Normally you're a lot chattier than this. I feel like I'm talking a lot. So Jones the Steam says hi, says stating. Yeah, I remember Jones. Ivor the engine driver. And then John, occasionally someone has Ivor the engine running at the Garden Railway shows. Oh, it's so cool. He was such a cute little engine. I got a feeling I read somewhere that he was coming back somehow, but I'm not quite sure how. Whether he was coming back as a cartoon or... Anyway, it was great. So if I have something like just those wooden end panels, they have the odd fixed one I'd have to work around, but I was planning on putting all that gubbins, and I'm still thinking about stretching these out a little bit with that central sort of support going up. But I might, if I don't do that, just stagger those elevators, lifts, up through the levels so that they're in different places, and that could be a good effect if you can like do 3 levels over here, but you have to walk all the way over here to do the next 3 or 4 levels, which I think is how it happens. So yeah. 45th Clown says IKEA mods are possible. What is the budget? As little as possible. I'm trying to reuse existing things. I have so much that I've bought. I'd actually like to clear some of my cupboards out of, you know, one of the green boxes that's in there is a whole box of fans for computers that I bought to do something, and they're 3-pin I think, and I just need them to go really slowly, and they're like 1200 RPM, but I need to work out how to use those so I get this sort of thing that you get more on, or to actually make them really fast and buy some others that are slower, because on some games you can't get across because they're too fast and they go on and off. So I could have that as an effect as well. So yeah. Norm says most of your dioramas are fairly light in weight, correct? Yes, but there's a lot of them, and take my Transport Delta, which is unlikely to go in here because it's as big as the lava diorama practically. It's about 3 foot by, it's over 3 foot by over 2 foot. So it's a really big thing. So it would take up 1/2 of one of these, a whole layer. So I'm not likely to put that in just because it's so big, though it does need a home somewhere. And it might go on top of the bookshelves actually upstairs when I've got them up. Thought. Anyway, that for example seems to weigh a lot. And the reason is there's probably a couple of kilos of filament going into some of these things. So there's a lot of them. So I would say yes, they're lightweight. They're not as heavy as say a bookshelf would be. So something like Ivar, I mean, I've had it twist slightly, but it wasn't a really damp garage. And overall, £17 for an end piece, and then getting the wood down. James said he'd route out the ends, so you tap them out, he says. He's got it in his garage, and then replace it with a longer sort of side piece. So I could do that. I don't know what to make the shelving out of if we do that. Certainly James's suggestion was something like 6mm MDF, as probably is the cheap, yeah, MDF, I think he said, is probably one of the cheapest options that I could go with. And so it then becomes, if I have these circles, which are going to be actually slots so that you can get there, if I have those cut out, so that, and the reason for having those cut out is so that I can show more of the buildings. If I'm going to do a 3 foot depth, you have to be able to look at the back of 3 foot. And if you think of your average bookcase, looking to the back of 3 foot is quite hard on a bookcase. So if you want to get to the back of all of these, then what you realistically need is something cut away so that you can actually have the buildings lining round. Yeah, we'll see. I keep getting warnings that the bit rate isn't very good. So I don't know if the internet is just having a moment at home, because it's normally much better than this. And I keep seeing the loop, so apologies if I keep timing out at all. So I've answered the budget, cheap as possible. Obviously, I don't need to build it all straight away. Hi Monique. Monsville Railway's coming in from Brisbane. I don't need to build it all straight away. What I want is the frame, and to get I'm on my 5th Kickstarter at the moment, elements from each of those 5 Kickstarters in there. And obviously all of the lava practically will be in there, but some of the others have got a lot of duplicates, and it may be that I spread them around for now and then replace them out as I get better and more stuff in there. Oh, Norm says you're fine, no issues. That's good. It must just be YouTube sending me constant warnings, because, you know, that's what it does. Oh, 37 now. Come and join in, people. Like and subscribe. Yeah, I've got 30 likes and 32 people watching, so that's actually very impressive. Thank you. Because it's now nearly 9 o'clock, time for me to remind people I've got a Kickstarter running. If you want a desert temple, this is an example of the type of column. Obviously, you don't do them in bright blue, you do them in the desert colour. This is going to be an LED lit one. But if you're new in and you didn't know, the link's at the top. Go check it out, please. So that's cool. So if I did something like Ivar, I now have I need to come up with some ideas for what to make the shells out of. And I've got some issues that you can see. So if you look at the top left, I've got a slopey roof and the shells are like jutting out. They're cantilevering out a long way. I don't think 6mm MDF would work, but that doesn't mean that I can't create something in like the model itself that holds the shelf up, especially you know, that far up. Norm, yeah, it does sound more like a bookcase with possibilities for adjustable shelving until you get to the 3 foot depth. Now my lava that's going at the bottom is 3 foot. And no bookshelf is 3 foot. Garage shelving, racking, none of it's 3 foot. And that's where I've been having the problems. It becomes, is it something bespoke? Oh, Monique, I'm sorry to hear that. She says she's in New Zealand at the moment because her dad had 3 strokes a few weeks ago. He's recovering well. I do hope that he gets better and that he continues to recover. And thank you for stopping in and saying hi. And I know you'll be busy and can't wait, but I'm sorry to hear that, and I do hope he makes a full recovery. Parents will worry when they get older. Yep. So, looking at this, I've obviously, I've got to work out what I do about cantilevering. Do I cantilever the far right end as well? And will shelves hold themselves up if they're cantilevered? This is what I can't work out. What do I do about that? I've got a hanger actually that may well go at the end of the lava one that's in 28mm. And I've got some other things. The hanger's actually on the video. So an excuse just to put a video back up for a second. And I freeze again. Yeah, let's go past my... So if we look, I still need to be able to access this. And this is what a bookshelf with adjustable shelves looks like. It's very solid on the sides, so I can't get any vistas going through if I do a bookcase. And I actually want vistas to go through the centre, you know, perhaps, so that it gives a feeling of more space. And let me just reconnect. Okay, so if we get here and I pause, this corner, it's cracking after the building work, as you'd expect. It had a new steel put across the top here. But this is a hanger here. So, you know, that corner where I want to put some, imagine this turned 90 degrees towards you, anti-clockwise. Then, you know, I'd want that to be able to go in there. And I probably actually could build it a bit higher. I've got all this. I didn't really like the modularity of it. I was trying to make a modular hanger and I wasn't 100% happy. So I've learned a lot since I did this. Yeah. So Monique says, thank you. The 45th Clown says, command strips too risky for supporting the shelves. Good night, Monique. I actually don't know what a command strip is. So assume I know nothing of a lot of this stuff, and it may even be a language thing, but there we go. John says, how about a 3D printed building or tower with a wooden core for strength for the top levels? Definitely could do something like that, and it may be for those top levels that are going into this corner here, that's what I need to do. And this was painted 6 months ago, I think. So that crack's all happened since then, which is frustrating. And then, yeah, I mean, I can go all the way up to there, but it's a really annoyingly shaped piece to get there. I think those are almost 1 metre wide. They're 90 centimetres or 80 centimetres, those to show you the space. So there we go, back to here. Oh, and I've frozen again. What is it with this? Reconnect to device. Reconnect to device. Okay. Nope, it's not going to do it. There we go. I'm just going to stare sideways moodily by the look of it. Oh, I get very fed up with this. Right, I'm going to go back to me for a bit. Am I there? Yeah, I'm there. Right, okay. So Stating says command strips are way too weak and they fail when they dry out. Okay, I still don't know what one is, but that was a no, apparently. One of the problems with planning this project is it's an expansion project. I don't yet know what the final set of buildings that are going to go in there are, and I may well end up spreading them out. I've got pod races, so at some point I'd like to have a pod racing course going round with people betting. I mean, people are that high, you know, that high, so whatever. But, you know, crowds of people, which involves a lot of painting and minis. It's because of the modularity and the ability to change it up. It's, you know, difficult to plan now exactly what I want and how everything's going to look. David says, back again. Hi, David, but rather late. Just caught the bit about cantilevered shelves. For a cantilevered shelf to work, you need to counteract the loading on the cantilevered side by downward force on the other. Yeah, and at the moment, all of my shelves are just resting. They're not anchored. So I could deal with it in one of two ways. I do a support at the back, and actually I do need to do something at the back because I need to hide the wall and the curtain. So for the bottom one, I've got this shaper sheet. Now, if you haven't seen shaper sheet, it's an amazing thing. It's like foil on one side, a thick foil, and fluff, like fleece on the other, and you get shaper sheet plaster. You scrunch it into the shape you want, you put the plaster on and it sets solid, and it's really impressive. And I've seen some beautiful on the Woodland Scenic stand in all the national train shows in America. They did things like this, and you know, there were trees on it and it looked amazing and it was self-supporting. I tried it and the edges get bashed quite easily. But I might create a whole rock face for the lava at the back using shaper sheet or foam, depending whichever one it was. So this is why it actually needs to be deeper than 3 foot, so I can get a thinnish back on there. And I'd like there then to be perhaps lava pipes coming out with lava cascading out of it as well. And I've got some lava equipment that could go on there. So there's things that I could do on the back, because otherwise it's just going to be a very black back, which will look quite boring. And on all the other backs, I might try a mirror. So you see it a lot on model railways, where if you hide the sides and put a reflective mirror on, you can actually, as long as you can't physically stand in front of the mirror, so it's an angle you can't physically stand in front of, you can make your streets look like they go on forever. Or at least, quite a lot further. So I might try and do some forced perspective on the back with some mirrors. I'd like to do an infinity mirror somewhere. I've got some plasma balls, and I'd like to have those as like power stations on levels. I want to do oxygen recirculating plants and things like that. But then when I make those buildings or supports, they'll eventually go on a Kickstarter for the lower levels or something. So this will then become a display piece for my existing work and a test piece for perhaps my new work. So Dave said the shelf needs to be stiff enough not to sag under the load. That's my worry, because by the time you get chunky enough, it also becomes sort of very heavy, I guess. Sticky thing that goes on the wall, command strips. Oh right, very thin glue strips as alternative to screws on walls. They can support up to 7 kilos each. Not sure if they dry out. The problem is it's actually curtain and window for at least half, maybe slightly more of this. And I want it to be freestanding. I don't want it to attach to the walls. I want it to be freestanding, just because I do. As a result, partly because one of the walls is plasterboard, the other is quite solid brick. And then one of the walls is the slopey wall, which I don't actually want to put anything on. And that is plaster onto metal, I think, and concrete pads. And then metal. So what about floating shelves? Dave, okay, that's floating shelves out. Okay, yeah, answered that one. So it's the window is the thing. That's why I want it to be freestanding as much as anything, is because there's a window across half of it. Let's put the movie up again. So if you look at the room, and apologies for the room, and I'm just frozen. Oh, what a great picture to freeze on. This is just so weird. Reconnect to device. There we go. It worked that time. Right. So John says you might need to run support columns all the way up to spread the load from the top levels. I might need to. I need to think about, along the back I could put 5 or 6 supports, and down the sides I could put 5 or 6 supports. Well, yeah, maybe only need 1 or 2. If I'm taking the IVAR apart, I probably could do that in some way if I thought about it and spoke to James about it, because it's got to allow the shelves to rest on it. But I want all the edges to be faced. And I would like the vista through, so that when you look at it, you can go through the central support. But I decided that 8 foot long was, I think the room's 10 foot, so it's just short of 8 foot long, was too long for anything without supporting in the middle. But what I could do is use threaded rod in places. James was very much like, oh, threaded rod would be perfect. I'm like, it's not very modular, but I could make some sections with threaded rod and bolt front and back, and then use some 3D print thing around that, so that I've got this extra supports in places. In your mind, is the back open or closed? It's closed, because I want it to look like a city. So in my mind, the back is as I just said, mirrored, or is like a wall, as if it's like a with doors on, perhaps. It's maybe a building, so there may be, I've got some modular buildings that are, let me just go back to the photo slideshow and reopen myself. iOS camera, refresh devices, let's try reconnect. No, this one is not reconnecting. We'll go back to me. Oh gosh, it's like Halloween, isn't it? Getting early. So on this one, I feel like the back is going to be closed but I will have like doors and panels as if it's an underground. In some places there'll be I've got modular like warehouses that I could take apart and make just the whole back modular. I've got them, the modular, I don't need to keep, I've got one complete one. So the modular one could come apart and then it's actually about this big. So if I've got two walls that big, it probably would actually do a 3 foot length, and I'd make it the height of the shelf to be the height of that. So I could do that, and it could go straight up to the ceiling, and it's got doors that say storage and windows and things like that. So, you know, that could be the back of one of them. It's already painted. Yes, I lose the building, but I then reuse it. And this is what I need to do. I need to take the things I've got, the LEDs, all of the things that I've produced in there, multitude, like that hanger that I showed earlier, all of that, and reuse them. Glass shelves. I actually like the idea of having energy bridges going across. So I might get some laser cut from somebody, acrylic, or try 3D printing. I think if you over the flow quite a bit, you can get quite a solid, it doesn't look good on this, you know, but this was quite there was a better coloured one that I used second that's lighter. But I've got orange and purple and green, and I might be able to do like energy ones. So I was wondering, across that centre hole, I could actually put a big energy bridge at one point, or across maybe the front of it or a side of it, I could have an energy bridge going out to something. But glass, maybe for one, but not for all of it. Because it is a city. It's sliced, okay. For those who missed the beginning, it's a city. It's a stacked city with lower levels and sections for each planet's type of inhabitants, which is how I managed to put in all of my different disparate Kickstarters. So imagine each section is a city, a village, a layer, a community. David, you could use cantilevered shelves with 2 columns and cantilevered shelves out at each end. I could, and that might actually work better for the sort of top area. But one of the problems I have is I don't want to have a leg in the middle of my lava area, and that's 4 foot long. So I've got 4 foot, and then I've got another 3 foot one that I could perhaps split, and I was wondering this, I could split it into a sort of a 1 foot and a 2 foot. I'm going to have to go back to the me being frozen and explain it. On the left hand side, so on the right at the bottom, this is my lava factory. And I can put that in just as me, just as sort of as it is here. Or I could try and stack it in here as like a 1 foot section, because this is 3 foot this way, 1 foot there and the 2 foot sticking out here. But I still think it might just be the bottom section because it's quite tall. There's actually lights through here. It's bendy, so it's got to be well. It's bendy if you're not careful because it's made of tiles, so it needs to sit on something very solid. So yeah, so it's a 4 foot section and a 3 foot section definitely, and I'd like the two to be able to look through to get vistas and roads and things. So Norm says, it sounds a little like Jason Jensen's sci-fi modular diorama, but with the possibility of being adjustable. It is, and I really like Jason Jensen, what he's done, and he was an inspiration. Before I
Jason did that. I think he also follows somebody I follow, which is Empire Toy Works. And if you haven't seen Empire Toy Works, he started well before Jason, and I think Jason was inspired by him. And he certainly inspired me. And then Jason did it. And I remember thinking at the time, ooh, that's a great idea. And I wanted to do it. And I don't know why I forgot I wanted to do it, because it is a great idea. I think I just didn't have a space for it at the time. Unlike Jason, who's got a big basement, my rooms were all full. So Empire Toy Works basically has a huge house. And I think he has a whole roof that is just a Star Wars spaceport sort of thing. And he's got loads of stuff. And he makes things and sells them, but it's excellent. It's really, really good. But it is very similar. But his is a bigger scale, because his is 1/24, I think. And mine's 1/48, so it's half the size. But with it being adjustable, because I'm still creating everything. David Orth, you can make long, stiff, lightweight solid shelves using torsion box construction. I wondered about when I was saying I wanted to put in underbits with, I don't know if you heard that, David. I want to put in underbits like for all the utilities between some of the layers. And in which case those utilities sections would allow me to make a torsion box. But I know you've only got chat, so it's whether how thin each of those sections would need to be and how much bracing they need. Would it be in 3D print? How would I connect those 3D prints? Would it be two flat sheets of something with something else in between, and how do I connect them? What would it be? Because I've been bitten before now with some of the more flexible products warping over time. Norm says yes. Okay. David, you could also make vertical torsion boxes for columns with large holes through them to connect scenes. Yeah, I think the scenes will have connections with lifts and utilities. And it's fascinating now. I was thinking about this. So Coruscant has all these levels, and the levels get numbered higher as you go lower down. So when did they number them? Because wouldn't you expect 1 to be the bottom level and then the top to be like 14, 14? But actually, the lower levels, I think, are the higher numbers, and the top levels are like 1. So somehow they had to, when they numbered them all, they knew how many levels they had. So maybe they just did a renumbering later on in life. Anyway, the little things that I wonder when I'm walking around the park thinking about my Junk Room City. So I've talked quite a bit about Junk Room City, and one of the things that I'm going to use to do this is November, December. Now, in that time, I've mentioned the B1 Battle Droid, I've mentioned the Titanfall helmet. I've got other projects I need to do. I've actually got a Revenge of the Sith diorama I'm doing with Erin, who's one of my tutorial people from back when I did those, and he stayed on. And we still do tutorials, which basically chats every couple of months. And we're doing a diorama together, and it's the General Grievous Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I need to paint it, so that'll my next tutorial's next Sunday. So I doubt it'll be painted by then, because I still haven't sorted out that room and tidied it and changed the bench vent filters and done all that. But, you know, at the very least, we'll probably talk about other stuff. You know, I've got that diorama going. And then I need this to be something I can put up and pick. I need the frame sorted quite quickly. And then I want to do each section, each area as a sort of YouTube video, Junk Room City sort of styled, but round, talking about each of the areas, a little bit about the history of them, and you know, what the buildings are, and then adding little scenes into them, perhaps doing little projects. So each of these projects then go onto YouTube, which, because my YouTube's languished, and I'm on 95,000 subscribers, and last month I went down 4, and I think I've gone up 22 this month. And what I really want to do is get across the 100 grand, sort of, you know, 100k sort of yeah, just I want to get across that so I get the plaque. Otherwise, they're going to probably get rid of the plaques by the time I get there. And as a result, I want to be able to YouTube video this quite a bit. So you'll see it on live streams because it's the modelling I'm going to be doing. But at the same time, I've got things like the Thunderbirds that should be being done for here. They don't have a home. I don't have space for them. And they've been stalled as a result. But what I'd like to be able to do is to put some of those into this and to mix and match some of the styles. So it won't all be Star Wars. It will be a mix of other things. Now, the Thunderbirds are all really different scales. But actually, spaceships are almost scaleless. There's no windows on them. Is my arm long enough? Oh, just. The hangar, which is here, if you look at that hangar, that could just be like a storage room, you know? There's nothing to say that the person has to walk through there. It could be like something else. So it could be that I can, it could be that I can, you know, put some of these set in at the back or around the side, especially that side section. I think would be good for some of these that are a little bit more disparate. So, Rob, hello Kathy, I'm listening and decorating at the same time. You're very brave to listen and decorate, but thank you. David says, torsion box made from probably 5mm MDF, about 50mm or more between top surface and under surface of shelf. And what do you put between them, David? That's the question. John says, maybe Palpatine ordered a level reset after he took over. I think it was done before, because I think early Boba Fett was supposed to be in 1313, but it's the kind of thing he would do. He'd have the Imperial levelling, wouldn't he? Norm says, if the back is closed, you can use slotted stanchions, the type they used in closet organisers. That way, the shelf supports are slotted into the stanchions that come in varying lengths, up to 3 foot. I didn't think you could do a 3 foot deep on something like that, if I'm honest. I don't see them. When I look for anything 3 foot deep, there's nothing that size. When I was looking even for storage, none of our wardrobe solutions are 3 foot deep in the UK. Nothing is 3 foot deep. It's just, you know, shelves are made, mostly the biggest I've seen is kind of 18 inches, 450 centimetres. At most, you might get a kitchen unit at 600. But that's still only 2 foot, and I need over 3 foot. I need it to be 3 foot plus room for backing, which won't be that much. So I just haven't found that depth of shelf support anywhere. And I'm worried if it's just at the back supported, what is going to stop it just plummeting down at the front? Rob says, I want to do a small train layout, so we'll be looking for your videos for help soon, Kathy. Oh, excellent. That'll be my older videos, and there are a lot of them. David says, you could, Norm, but those slotted hangers tend to need to be fastened to a wall, and Kathy said no wall fastenings. I did indeed. Lol, I'm designing a 4 foot by 8 foot table for my new laser. That's a good size. You would fasten them to the back of the unit. Yeah, the back of the unit isn't structural at the moment. It's cosmetic. Let's put it like that. Cable hanging wire from ceiling for shelves. You can adjust the height and distance quite cheap. Need holes in shelf. The trouble with that, okay, because one of the early things that James said to me is screw rod, you know, threaded rod. That's probably the word I'm looking for. With nuts on is really good for just making things. And I'm like, but then I have to know the order of my shelves and the distance for all of them. And if I want to slot one in lower down, everything else needs to be taken off so I can re-slot a new one in and then put back on. So the problem is I might add a mid shelf, or I might move shelves up and down and take them out and move them, because that whole shelf that I originally had at Saverna Spaceport has been replaced by something else that needs an extra 2 inches because I did it on a different basis. And so I don't think my ceiling isn't that strong. You know, it's not going to hang this. My ceiling is probably still the 1x2 laths. It's not even weight bearing. So So looking at cantilevered shelving, all I can find is over-engineered industrial stuff. And that's the trouble. Once you start going up to the... I mean, James is like, you could get this bespokely welded for you. Yeah, James, no. Price-wise, I am not paying someone to weld me a metal frame. Which is why we looked at Ivar. So let's go back and look at Ivar. I will freeze. Woohoo! I'm frozen because... so this is where we are at the moment for those that... Oops. Here we go. This is where we are at the moment. I still cannot make myself connect. Refresh devices, reconnected device. Nope, it's not going to let me. Oh, well, let me. So this is Ivar, which we had real great fun with. Let me see if I can get that on. There we go. Right, now let's see if I can shrink myself up to that corner. Yay, fun. So this is Ivar, and the current idea is that the reason this is popular is that I can knock these out and make them longer. So I can make them 3 foot in the front to back as you look at this direction. It'll be 3 foot 3 inches probably. And then these, I can put all of these in. But I still have a lot of problems with the shelving, which, as you can see, we're talking about cantilevered shelving. It's really hard. And I think by the time we get back to this section over here, this section over here is going to need a large cantilever. And I think it will end up with buildings and bespoke sort of things here to support this end. So it'll need maybe an elevator lift shaft. And actually the lift shafts could be really useful, but I've also got cantilevered shelves down here where I'm trying to leave this open enough so you get the feel of the lava. But I can put some buildings in here which will attach onto here, which may be industrial units, it may be some of the grottier areas, and these may be, there's probably going to have a cavern running down the front. So this actually looks like wood stone at the front and the bottom and the sides at this section. So it's like it's stone, it's in the foundations. And then as you get further up, it gets more metallic, more duracrete, more concrete. They call it duracrete, plascrete, whatever they call it in sci-fi. More concretey going up and more panelled and more sci-fi. And then so this is going to look like it's inset into the sort of cavern somehow. So these are going to be like, so there will be quite a big something that's going to have to go across there that will be lightweight, made out of foam, and a cavern. And then this is where things like my temple will probably sit, and some of the other things. Norm says, I used that system to support my old HO layout. It was a free hanging shelf layout. It had capability for 3 foot brackets. It's fascinating because I can't find 3 foot brackets in this country. David says, if it were me, I'd use 3 torsion box columns, 1 at each end, 1 in the middle, and I'd slide in torsion box shelves between them. 3 foot by 4 foot is a shelf, is the size. So James has said he'll help me make them up, and I understand why torsion boxes are the way to go. So I'm going to put out here my very limited engineering understanding from my 2 hours at Solihull Scale Model Club being told by engineers that my system didn't work. I wanted to do Meccano and use angle iron to do it, and I was told it wouldn't work because it will twist, because angle iron wants to twist. So I understand that that I need a box arrangement that is either glued or screwed or something that's quite rigid in a box like, which is where I've always mentioned. What I don't understand, David, if it's a torsion box, is it solid the whole way up? Is it like solid pieces, or can I cut holes through it? And also, I understand it was 5mm MDF, you said, but what is between them? What is holding the 5mm MDF together or apart? I get that they're 50mm. What is that 50mm made up of? That's what I'm not quite understanding. 6mm. you said. And I understand why, and it is to do with twisting. I liked the idea of being able to bolt onto my Meccano angle iron so that if I wanted a landing pad projecting, I could bolt some basically bits of metal together with a 45-degree brace underneath and have it kind of coming up and holding the landing pad, because I've actually got some quite big landing pads that can fit in here until other stuff comes along. You can cut holes in 6mm MDF, air between them. It works with stress skins. Okay, thanks Tamsin. I will have to Google afterwards because I'm presuming it's like wood between them or something, that you've got a 50mm piece of wood between it. But this is basically what the problem I was having with, I was being told was the problem with my Meccano idea was that it was twisting, but a torsion box doesn't because it's glued and screwed. So it has ribs. If you cut a hole, then it will need internal support around it. You could do Meccano if you made a rectangular columns. Yes, and I think that's what I've learnt. Would your angle iron be strong enough if it's got a wooden post attached on one side? It's not about the strength, it's about the twisting. That a right angle will twist because it's just the nature of the material. So it's no wood between them. Okay, I really don't understand what holds the 50mm apart then. I understand there's a 50mm gap, but what's in the gap? What is in the gap? Because there must be something in the gap if it's an upright to hold them together. They're not just in midair. So what is between them? That's what I don't get. It's an empty box. So what? Okay, so there's a top and this is what I was like on the Tuesday. I get it, but why? So there's a 50mm, so there's a sheet of 6mm MDF going here. And there's a sheet of 6mm MDF going here. At the moment, there's fresh air in between. What is between those two sheets of 6mm MDF on both sides? If it's an empty box, that implies there's an edge. But what is that edge made up of? Because 6mm MDF you can't really screw into easily. Is it just 6mm MDF or is it something else? So what are the sides, David, though? What are the sides made of? This is so much fun, isn't it? So that was... anyway, this is Junk Room City. More 6mm MDF and it's glued. Right, thank you. Okay, so I understand that. And my problem is I have nowhere to do woodwork, so I can't cut MDF. I'm going to pop over to James's. He's got a massive workshop and he said he would do the woodwork for me to do this. So I think wood is one of the answers for this. And it may be that I can use MDF, but 50mm, hang on. Always have a tape measure by my, here we go, here's this end. So 50mm is... it's quite, yeah. Right, so Stating's put an image on my Discord. I'll go and have a look at it afterwards. Do not use plastic shells as they would flex too much depending on thickness. Thanks, Macaro. I've come to the conclusion that people suggested acrylic, but it's very expensive. I might use it for maybe an odd energy barrier or something. But most of these are going to get faced, and I might well face them in 3D prints. So that if you were to print a 3D print that slots over the top, you could do that. So I might well face them. Yeah. Anyway, I need to think about it. So at the moment, there's shelves and there's uprights. One upright on the left can be quite solid, but the middle upright I want nice and open. And then the right-hand front upright I want really open. And then there's another upright at the back for like a corner unit, which actually, interestingly, Ivar has a corner unit piece. And all of those uprights are going to get faced in 3D print, whether it's the rockwork at the bottom or the sort of city at the top. If James has a circular saw bench or just a track saw, he can produce torsion boxes. The guy has everything. I think he's a tool guy. And he even has a lathe, so I'm pretty sure he has all of those things. I don't know what a track saw is, but I'm pretty sure he has something. He really just has every tool you could need. He has like 3 workbenches, and I've only ever really seen the summer room apparently. So yeah, I suspect he does have it. So that's cool. I had woodworking stuff, but I got rid of, when I converted my 3D print room from my old garage, I got rid of anywhere I can do it except outside. So I think I kept the jigsaw, but I'm not sure. So what I would want then is James hopefully to help with the location, at least for jigsawing out all of the holes as well on these. But I don't know how many I want yet. And it may be that for some of the smaller levels, to get the stacking, I'll just put foam and stack up, or I can do a riser with something that isn't necessarily wood, that's just sat on a wood. And there won't be as many as this, as I said at the beginning. So any other thoughts on what I'm going to do with this? Any grand ideas? Every now and then I think that circular hole will be boxed in, so you literally just see the circular hole as a hole, especially nearer the top where you're not going to see as many buildings. I think right at the top it will be faced in, and you'll see the circle going up, and I'll have spaceships dangling from somewhere with sort of as if they're coming down. That's the theory anyway. Okay, right, so we've got half an hour more, and I have plan B to talk about. Oh look, I've frozen again. Reconnected device. Okay, nope. I just have to end up deleting all of these, yes, and re-adding myself in. And I'm sure I shouldn't need to do this every single time I go into this, but I do. It's really bizarre. It's not been good, has it? Sorry about that, folks. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was something I'd seen on the internet a while ago, and I wanted to provoke a bit of a, just a chat for the last half hour about it. And that's this concept that, and I've seen it phrased like this: hard work trumps talent every time. I don't know what your views are. Hard work trumps talent. And I've been thinking about this. I don't know if it's a generational thing. I'm in my 50s, barely. Less and less barely every year. But, I'm in my 50s. And I was always brought up to play to your strengths. That if you're not good at something, it's not that you don't do it, but you don't major on it. So I am tone deaf. I can't sing. You would not want me to sing. I won't do karaoke. You really, really don't want me singing. And yet I see it all the time on the internet, and it's like an echo box when they see it, where people say, if you're lazy and you've got talent, you won't do as well as someone who works hard. And that might be true, but I'm never going to run as fast as Usain Bolt. I'm never going to be a virtuoso pianist. Does that mean I shouldn't enjoy doing music? Well, I listen to music, but I tend to have it as a background. I'm not a big music person. And so when it comes to modelling, I think I've seen it from modellers a lot, where they say, don't worry if you're not talented at modelling, because if you work hard, you will succeed. And I think it's supposed to be an encouraging thing, that it doesn't matter if you don't feel you're very artistic, because you can still achieve great results. And that's true. You really can. I am not good at engineering. We might have ascertained that from the last hour and a half of me talking about, I just want to put a simple Meccano rack in my spare room to do this. And we're, an hour in, I'm only just kind of making sense of it. And so can you do well at modelling if you don't have skills or talents? And skills and talents, I think, are two different things. If you're not talented at art or you're not talented at things, can you do well at modelling? Can you do well at model railways? And I think the answer is yes, because I am definitely not skilled at engineering. I am definitely more of an artist than I am an engineer. And I'm definitely not great at track laying. And I still built layouts. And Tim's thankfully left, so he can't tell you how good he thinks my track laying is. But I can understand quite a lot from what people say that, people feel really nervous about the artistic side. And so being told if you work hard at it, it doesn't matter if you're not talented, really appeals to those people who want to be talented at something and perhaps don't feel that they are. And I just wanted to make this an encouraging half hour about what is effectively a hobby for most people. And people choose to spend a lot of time on it. And one of the things I would say is, if you're interested in something, then in some ways, does it matter if you're good or not? Is it necessary to be the best? Are you modelling because you want acclaim on social media? You want people to think that your work is the best that there is? Or are you modelling because you enjoy the hobby, because you enjoy sitting there? Even if your end result is not that good, and I've certainly produced some clunkers in my time, even if it's not great, have you enjoyed the process? And one of the things I found, and the reason I'm about to take 2 months off, is I kind of fell out of love of modelling when I had to do it full time. And I still love what I do now, which is designing. I love sitting in front of my computer designing models. I would happily start my next Kickstarter tomorrow and get on with it because I love that design element. But there's more to doing a Kickstarter than just designing. There's the marketing side, there's the taking photos, there's the getting the views, the sort of channel for the YouTube channel, the sales links. It's just really a case of there's more to it than just sitting in front of a computer designing, which is what I really love. And I've always loved the design element. So for me, spending more time designing is brilliant because that's what I've always loved most, is the planning, the research and the designing. And actual execution of some of the dioramas, I'm less worried about. And I've come to realise that over the last 4 years, as I've had more time to do my modelling, because I've been doing it full time. I've written a book, I've done a YouTube channel, I've got to 95k subscribers somehow, but no further. And I've been stuck there for a year and a bit. But, in that time, I've really come to understand what my strengths and weaknesses are when it comes to modelling, because they're the ones I have to use every day. And I'm not great at mini painting. It's a patience thing as much as anything. I just set myself deadlines and then don't want to spend time just sitting there enjoying it, because actually I need to get it done. And this is where I am. My minis for this Kickstarter are painted in desert sand spray paint because my booth still needs its stuff sorting and I hadn't got my airbrush out working as a result, because the booth needs sorting. And I've got a wash on them. And I did it with a speed paint, didn't like it, so I redid them with a neutral wash by MIG, which is still my favourite wash of all time. And they look much better, if somewhat shiny in the videos, because I don't think they dried quite enough. So I've learned about myself what it is I really enjoy. And hopefully that's playing to my talents. I do like designing stuff. There will always be people who design better than me. But I like to play and spend my time on what I feel good at when I do it. So the idea that hard work trumps talent, well, I've worked hard on my content creator career. I worked myself practically into a burnout, and I worked myself practically into a depression when it didn't go well, because people didn't enjoy what I was doing. Nobody watched my YouTube videos. YouTube every time said, oh, this isn't doing as well as your last one, or this is 10 out of 10, your regular viewers aren't interested. And in all that time really struggled with the fact that hard work doesn't actually get you success. So I'm here to tell you, success in modelling has to be something different. Now, if my Kickstarter only makes £2,000, which is what it's doing at the moment, plug, my Kickstarter link is at the top, please go and buy it. I actually have to learn to live with that, because I can't invest who I am and my self-worth in how well my product sells. I can invest myself into designing, into the joy of designing, into having a really fulfilling year and spending the last 2 months showing off some of the work I've done and coming to appreciate again some of the stuff that I've done and splitting it up and getting it there and putting it on YouTube and showing it off. And if that isn't successful, is that lack of talent? Is that lack of hard? It's not lack of hard work. Is it lack of talent? Maybe, maybe not. But I have to, in myself, learn to enjoy that journey and to enjoy it, because my job is my hobby, is my job is my hobby. And actually my hobby is now playing video games. I've spent a lot of time playing Outlaws. And before that it was KOTOR, and I've still got KOTOR 2, which is Knights of the Old Republic, to play. I love playing immersive open world games. At the moment I'm running around finding every treasure, apart from the ones that are bugged, so I can't get into them or can't find them because they're bugged. There's one that's bugged, I can't open the door. I did the quest, the door didn't open, or I didn't go in, and now the door won't open. And they need to fix that. So once that's fixed, I'll be able to clear the whole of Tashara because I've got every other treasure. But you know, over time, I've moved my hobby away into video games, which are then very inspirational because I then go away, design things inspired by those video games that I played. Hence the market district, because there's a lot of markets in Outlaws that you visit, an awful lot of markets, like an awful lot of markets. And I love it. I love that feel, and there's 3 or 4 different types, and I've got loads of ideas. I'm very excited by it. But is my modelling worth less if fewer people watch it? Is my talent not as much because I've worked hard and I haven't succeeded? And the answer is no, it isn't. For most of you, this is a hobby. And I would just say, if you're enjoying what you're doing, I was very inspired to start Junk Room City because I felt like I was going to be using a lot of my existing work that at the moment isn't really shown off. It's in boxes under the bed. I've shown that video quite a few times this evening. Yes, there's a lot of fluff under my bed. And the whole aim of this is so that I can get it out there and have a showcase for the work that I have done, but also so I can appreciate it and fall back in love with modelling. This will give me a chance to do small, discrete, you know me, I don't like big projects, small, discrete projects, a shelf at a time, a section at a time. If one has different panelling, well, that was done by a different culture, so it's got different panelling. I will hopefully be able to put it all together and get something cohesive at the end of it, perhaps through the colouring choices, maybe the numbering, or maybe just the way the lift shafts go through and things tie together. You know, if I walk down my local high street in Knoll, where I live, there are Tudor buildings, you know, half timbered buildings, all the way through. Actually, there isn't anything particularly modern because we have a Knoll society that stops modern stuff going in. But all the way through to 70s precincts of brick and every era in between. And I think every city has that. So what I'm looking to do is these areas that are cohesive by some design language that's me. And over time, I'd like to move away from doing Star Wars as the theme, to be inspired by it, but not to be too close to the IP, because I want to do my own thing, to have my own world. But what I found is when I move too far away from Star Wars, like the Desert Temple is very Star Wars inspired if you look for it, but doesn't necessarily look it at first glance, I don't sell. And this is the trouble as a new small creator, I have to chase where the sales are. So anyway, that is me waffling for a huge amount of time about the phrase hard work trumps talent, because I don't think hard work trumps talent, and I think there's a danger in believing that if you work hard you'll be successful at what you do by whatever criteria you judge success by. You will get better. Practice does make perfect, But if you have to set your standard that you hold yourself to. And I am a great believer that being happy is a choice you make. I have learned to be content earning practically no money. My bills aren't as content, but hey, but I've learned to be content and to take my self-worth away from that. If you are modelling because you enjoy the social media self-worth, and like me, Instagram gets 26 likes, whatever you put up, or you just find nothing's really growing, no one is interested, remember that 20 years ago or 30 years ago, when I started, 40 years ago, when I started modelling, the only person I really had to model for was me, because there weren't forums, it was pre-internet. You modelled for you and perhaps a few friends. You didn't model to show it off to everybody. You modelled because you enjoyed the process of modelling. And I think in some ways, it didn't matter whether you were good or not, as long as you enjoyed the process. Now, we are judged so much by our end results, that Instagrammable photo, that actually the process has become almost less important to people than the end result. But to me, modelling is always a journey, and finishing is a destination you don't want to get to, because what do you do then? Well, obviously I like within that to have sections that I do finish, but you still don't want to run out of ideas at the end. Right, back to chat. B&Q do slot shelving that you could possibly attach to a wooden frame from the side instead of having it on the back like it's meant to be. I don't understand why slot framing would be much different to Ivar, but you can buy strips of book shelving that you put tabs in. So you can easily buy metal strips to go on to things that are just tabs that you can then just rest a shelf on. You don't have to go the full slot way to do that. I'll pick the Discord up afterwards, David. I'm having enough problems getting everything to stay, but thank you. Norm says, I suggested that earlier, John, slot wall. Yeah, I just, I know what you mean, and it is definitely on the list of things. What James had come up with, which I haven't decided on, is they're called bookshelf brackets, and you literally have a tab that's about that big, I think, that just hooks in. And if you've got them front and back, which I would have for a lot of it, then you're just supporting it front and back. I'd have to work out what the difference between the two is. David says, if you work hard at something, you can learn how to do something and make a good job of it. You might not be able to innovate. That's true. I suspect if we were to use music, you might be able to play a great guitar song, but you may not be able to write music. Stating the obvious, how about normal adjustable shelf brackets against the wall and then another set but reverse placed in front of it equals 3-foot shelving? What's holding them together if I haven't got any shelves in? Because one of the things that I need is, at the start there won't be any shelves at all, there'll just be the lava at the bottom. And I could do with having, I don't want to have to put like 4 shelves in before it becomes, you can paint that fluff and use it as foliage, says Norm. Yeah, a lot of fluff. Yeah, actually it's not a bad idea. I wonder what the fluff's made of though. Is it dead human skin? Oh, I don't know. That room's hardly used, so it's probably bits of carpet. The 45th clown. You need to define what success means to you. I don't model, so I'm a waste of a viewer for you. No, not at all. I actually really enjoy having, I mean, you know, a lot of my friends are modelers, but a lot of them aren't. I enjoy learning theory and the pleasure in watching a talented person, you in this case, working. Thank you. I love watching YouTube videos about completely random stuff like home DIY. Certainly there's a lot on Instagram on my feed at the moment, so I've obviously watched too many. I have no intention of doing woodworking. I love watching woodworking videos, so I definitely get that. Norm says, not to get biblical, but works alone won't get you into heaven, belief does. That's very true. That is I'm very proud for a Sunday night, quite topical. Stating, you need a frame to mount the shelving rails on. Right, thanks, Stating, that makes sense. So I think all in all, a lot of people have come up with some great ideas. I will probably end up going around to James's because he was going to show me the Ivar and having another chat with him. He'll have had a chance to think about it. And it may be that actually we just need the uprights with the holes in, and then some way of putting those together. It's a very difficult one to sort of envisage for me. I know what I want the concept to look like, and I've explained that ad nauseum now, but it's like, how does that actually work while it's only half built so it still looks good? And how do I get all that to pull together? So moving forward, we've got about 10 minutes left. I'm hoping that by the November one, I will have finished the Kickstarter, link at the top. I'll have finished the Kickstarter. I will have got some work done on some of the projects that I've got going. I'll have done a couple of dioramas perhaps in that time. And I'm hoping that maybe I'll even have got as far as having the frame out and the lava there. Now the frame needs painting black. Yeah, you know, I'm hoping to get that far. So at least we can get to see a start of it. State in the office says, bookshelf clip system, also known as tonk strip. I've installed miles of the stuff. Tonk strip, right, I'll remember that, thank you. James and his bookshelf idea with holes in the front and back is a good one. Yeah, I think it is actually a good one. He looked at it and he said it was like £3 for a 2 metre strip or something in brass, which I'd obviously have to scuff up a bit. But they're all going to get faced. So actually I'm going to paint them black for the interim. But everything is going to get faced, so you won't see any of the supports. Yeah, and then the pegs hold the shelves. It's then a case of, what do I make the shelves out of? Is it some kind of, as David suggested, box tension shelf? And it maybe that is the best thing, especially if I can leave the front open so that you can see through it. I don't know if that's allowable, David, but if you could see front to back as if it is a support sort of thing, you know, like a utility one, and so I could have wiring, just loads of, I've got so much, I've actually got rid of a lot of it. I had loads and loads of wires, but I'm, you know, just putting in things in there that are just especially at the front, looking like utility things that you see underground. So I don't know, what power cables for sci-fi, sewage, because everybody has sewage, even in sci-fi there's still sewage. David says, yes, you can have windows in any of all of the faces. Can I have the majority of it window at the front, I guess is what I'm trying to say, so that it's faced top and bottom and the majority of it. Wouldn't the diorama bottoms just sit on the pegs? So the diorama base, the shelf base will sit on the pegs. The dioramas are actually mostly individual buildings or going to sit on a shelf. Unless it's one like the hanger that's quite robust. And one of the reasons for that is almost all my recent dioramas are either on bookshelves, not bookshelves, picture frames, or they're on tiles, like 3D print tiles, and they will twist on the open lock clips because there's an element of slack so you can get them in, the clips, and then so they're meant to go on a tabletop. So I will need a shelf of some sort underneath. It might be that for some of them, so the thing with the torsion shelf is I'm going to have to take out a circle on every single shelf, and then actually to make it feel like it is a column that people are coming down from the surface into the depths, actually having it faced. I was going to face it with a 3D print like of a panelling, and it was probably going to be quite similar most of the way up, and it was therefore I was going to 3D print in sections that clip together that then glue on maybe or slot over the top of the hole. So that was kind of the idea, and I will just end up 3D printing an awful lot of sections. But for that, it would be, because of the way 3D prints work and it's circular, I either print it end on, and I can do a little bit of a twist before it becomes unstable. So I have a lot of short, sort of that shaped sections, you know, with the curve here. Or I do a flat top and half a thing, so it's like an L shape, and then the bottom L, and then they sort of slot together. So that's kind of the idea for the centre holes. And right at the top, that will just become a continuous tube up to the ceiling. And the top whole bit of it will probably just be something so that you can't see the ceiling above. There will be a top shelf that you can't see above, sort of thing, and that would be there. So that's that. We have got 53, right, so 53. So if anyone has any great ideas, I'm on Discord. You will be able to pop that on. Some of the dioramas I already have will be going on it, but it is going to be a lot of new sort of groundwork. You know, if I want it, so there'll be some fun little projects like putting in a fan. Sounds like the Silo, the great sci-fi series on Apple. Silos hold the remnants of humanity after a nuclear war. Can I say that just sounds like Fallout as well, which was actually really good. If you haven't watched, there have been 2 good adaptations from video games in my view, just 2. One of which was Fallout, which is also set in vaults underground from after a nuclear war, but there's always survivors on the surface, of course. I don't have Apple, so I don't know Silo. And the other one was The Last of Us, which was truly excellent. And I think there'll be another season of it. I haven't actually played The Last of Us because it's PlayStation only. But it was just a very, very good TV show. If you like dystopian futures or sort of apocalyptic futures. Both of those are fairly apocalyptic. Fallout's a very cartoon-esque series. So yeah, but I haven't got Apple TV, so unless Silo comes on to something else, I'm unlikely to buy it. So yeah, I'm just finishing Outlaws. I'm tending to play Outlaws of an evening at the moment. So I'm just finishing Outlaws. I've got 2 more planets to completely clear of treasures. And they're the ones I've done. Akiva, I've hardly done any treasures on, but I've done most of Tatooine already. So yeah. But no, I'm loving it. I'm loving going around just finding obscure treasure boxes because, hey, that's fun. But what they have a lot of is crates and small little corners and alleyways. And I want this to have the feeling of corners and alleyways. And I have a lot of buildings that are from the spaceport and from some of the other things that will be featuring to create these. So then I have to decide is I'm not going to glue them in, they're going to be placed in place, but I probably will end up having to do like little ways to hold them in that isn't glue, so maybe an edging, because there's nothing worse than seeing a black line under something. So there will be a little bit of tea leaves. Chamomile tea leaves are my favourite thing for hiding the black edge. I just like blow them along there as if they've had detritus. But you know, for some things, obviously tea leaves aren't great underground. So I'll have to come up with something else to hide those edges. So it may be I print or inset them down maybe 1 millimetre or something so that there isn't a black line. But we'll just have to see how I deal with that. And if I want to make them removable, it's likely to be quite light, whatever I do with them. So I think there will be a lot of new modelling going on. There'll be a lot of YouTube coming out of it, hopefully, which will keep people happy. Plus, I'll get to show off my lava and my all of the clutter that I've produced. I've got loads of pipe work from that is all painted that I can literally just put in round places now. So yeah, just really excited to have it placed out and about and in place and shown off. And then behind me on that wall, behind with all the other racking, I've got a lot of dioramas that have been damaged that need to be repaired and sorted. So November, December is going to be modelling 2 months. And I'm going to refuse to allow myself, unless I've got to design stuff for Junk Room City, to actually sit down and work. Because otherwise, I'm just going to sit and start designing the next Kickstarter. So, Norm says, good show. That's a sign I should be winding up. when Norm says good show. Lots of things to think about. I'm sure James will sort it all out. Good night, Kathy. Goodbye, chat. Take care. Night, Norm. He's off 3 minutes early. Woo. And before I've had a chance to thank my moderators. So I normally start with this and I didn't, but Norm and Digger normally keep the adult chat bots off. But there weren't any this evening, so they couldn't do that. But they always come in and make sure you guys don't say anything too rude, which you never do. But apparently people do occasionally, so they come and they sort all that out. So thank you very much, because they're both more into railways than sci-fi, but they stuck on through here. So that's great. And if anyone's got any ideas or areas they would like to see in an underground city stack thing, come over to Discord, because I'm going to set a channel up in a second called Junk Room City, which I probably should have done beforehand. So if anybody, it's going to be in one of the sections, not the Kickstarters, but another section. So if anybody wants to come and do some comments, then I'll set Junk Room City up and you can come and talk about it there. If you haven't got my Discord, then sorry, but there are links to it all over the place. And I'll pop a link down in the description after this. Don't forget to go and look at my Kickstarter. I've probably said it every half hour, but I'd really appreciate if you do go over and support me if you want to. If you don't want to, I totally get that, but thank you for listening to the stream. And if you're watching it on catch up and it's like months later, don't worry, it'll be on late pledge. You can still support me later, I won't mind. But thanks guys, and take care. And thank you all for listening. It's always great to have you all come and to have so many people, and I really appreciate you spending your Sunday nights with me, or Sunday afternoons. So take care, and I will see you all in November, hopefully with something actually built for this.